Welcome to Reasons to Rejoice. What we're doing with this is for every look that we take at ourselves, every look that we take at the world around us, we want to try and take 10 looks at Jesus. Because it is so easy as we drink from the hose pipe of social media to just get inundated with all that is happening that is terrifying and scary and frightening, and we can end up losing sight of who it is that we follow and why we're encouraged in various parts of the Bible to rejoice in him always. And here's one of the reasons why I rejoice in Jesus. We're given this little glimpse of shepherds in the nativity stories, that they're out watching over their flocks at night. And that reminds me of something Jesus says in John chapter 10 verse 9, where he says, "I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved." He's taking this image from the hills of Galilee, he's plucking it out, and he's applying it to himself. Because in those days, shepherds, when they were out watching their flocks, would often have like a paddock, a walled area that they would put the sheep into at night. And then they would lie, there wasn't a gate, they would lie in the gap where the sheep went in. And so in a sense, they would become the gate, they would become the door. And Jesus is taking that and he's applying it to himself. And if we really understand what he's saying, it becomes for us this cure for our insecurity, the sort of insecurity that we often feel as we come to God. It's the medicine for that. So here's a few thoughts on it. Number one, a door is a connection point between two spaces. It's like when you walk home and you're in the cold and the dark and you can see your breath, and then you see your front door ahead of you. You know that in some way that door is the connection point between what's inside and what's outside. Inside is light and warmth, outside is cold and darkness. And in Jesus, heaven invades earth. He, as a person, becomes that connection point between heaven and earth. And you know, when you get home, if you open the front door, like what's inside spills out. So the light rushes out into the path and the heat can hit you in the face. Well, similarly, wherever Jesus goes, it's like light spills out from inside of him and warmth rushes into the lives of the people who are close to him. And heaven invades earth. And what heaven is like is not cherubs kind of like on clouds, but heaven is wholeness. And so where he goes, water is transformed into wine. And people who've been crippled for 38 years are suddenly jumping around. And people who've been blind every day of their lives since they were born, they can suddenly see again. Heaven starts to invade earth. And when we come to Jesus with our brokenness and with our insecurity and with our fear, what we begin to find as we're near him, in the same way that when you step near to a fire, is his wholeness begins to flow into our hearts. A door isn't just a connection point, there's a purpose to it, to go through it. And Jesus doesn't say he's the window, he says he's the door. I don't know if you've ever seen the Narnia series or watched the books, but one of my favourite moments in that is when, right at the start, Lucy, the little girl, goes and plays hide and seek, and she hides in a wardrobe. And she doesn't realise what's happening, but she steps further and further back, and the back of the wardrobe isn't there, and instead she finds herself in Narnia. She walks through something ordinary into something extraordinary. Jesus seems, in some ways, ordinary. He's a man walking around Galilee. And yet, as we give him ourselves and as we surrender to him, he becomes the gateway for us into something extraordinary, into the wholeness of God's life. And again, where we're insecure, when we come to God and we can sometimes doubt if he wants to welcome us, we've got to come back and remember that Jesus is the door. My performance is not the door. My achievements is not the door. My salary is not the door. Jesus is the door. And because of him, I can come into life. And then last little thought, he is the door that never shuts. And people, we can be up and down. We can blow hot and cold. Sometimes someone you love even can just throw a strop and you don't understand. It's never like that with Jesus. We know with him, his door is always open. And so let's rejoice, because if we're struggling today, and if we have things that are overwhelming today, if we need help today, we know this is a door that is always open, and he's always there to help us. Praise the Lord. Jesus is the gate.